Hey, how's it going, guys? Greg Jenkins here, and I will be your host throughout the upcoming modules as we work through this presentation, through this conversation, and we reveal different areas of your business that could be improved, either to have an impact on your bottom line or to enhance the experience you are providing for your customers. Now, before we get started, I want to call out the title slide here, which is how to fix or grow any business on the planet. And I know how bold that claim sounds, so I would understand if your instinct was to be dismissive about it. But I want to back it up because I feel confident because I've seen this methodology work. I've seen it work not only in my own business, but also in hundreds of other small businesses that I have worked with or have consulted for or have documented as this process is applied. And that includes businesses in varying shapes and sizes, businesses in different industries, and businesses around the globe. So I feel really confident that this same conversation can work for every small business. And so if you feel, if your instinct is to question the universal nature of this, I want to challenge you to just set that reservation aside for a moment, because I really think the return will be worth it. I think this conversation will be valuable for you if you could invest some time in following along throughout this presentation. So let's get started here. First, I want to begin by addressing an assumption that I hope is true before we move forward at all. So that assumption is that you have a product or service that you believe in, that you are proud of. And that your audience has demonstrated the ability and willingness to pay for that, right? So if you have a solid product and people are willing to pay for it, you are all set and we can keep going. But if this isn't true, I just want to pause there because the rest of this conversation, its impact will be really limited in terms of what it's able to help improve for you if this fundamental truth, isn't there. So if this is not yet true, or you feel less confident about it, then you need to focus on resolving this first, making sure that you feel good about your product and that your audience is willing to pay for it. But once you have established that that is indeed the case, then the rest of this is really going to provide some opportunity to make meaningful gains and improve the results that your business is producing for both you and for your clients. Okay. Now, two quick heads up here before we move on. Number one is that this conversation starts relatively basic, okay? And then it builds. It gets more and more targeted as it moves on. So don't be surprised if some of this feels like review. I don't want you to get discouraged as we're getting started here if you feel like this is something you've already covered in the past, especially if you have talked with me previously about lifecycle marketing. Some of this will definitely feel familiar. Now, the second point here is that you don't need to do everything all at once. You should just focus on taking the next step, whatever that might be, and then repeating. I point that out because there's a pretty realistic possibility that you might reveal multiple areas of your business that you could improve. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed by trying to do it all at once. Focused on one priority at a time, just taking that next step. And remember that you will be able to repeat and continue working through that to-do list over time. Okay. Now, I want to also address that this course, who is this course for? And the question I have here is it for new or existing businesses? And the answer I have is, yep, it is for both, right? So if you are a brand new business and you're just starting out, this is going to be a really useful conversation because it'll help you get the framework in place from the onset. It'll help you build things the way that many more mature businesses wished they would have when they were starting out. But I also want to call out that if you are an existing business, if you are a business that's been around for a while, or you are a more mature business, that this conversation is still for you because the changes that we're going to make, the conversation and the changes that should reveal, the priorities that will surface up, for more mature businesses, they're going to produce more impactful results, right? A small tweak in a really mature organization can have a ripple effect throughout the rest of the customer experience. And at scale, those changes are going to be that much more impactful. So if you are a new business or a more mature business or anyone in between, I still think this conversation is going to be really relevant for you. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with IKEA. It's a furniture store largely, but they are well known. They're world famous for furniture that comes in a bunch of little pieces, and then they have complex instructions for how you can assemble it. Well, complex is a subjective assessment, I guess. Some people think it's really simple instructions, but the idea is that you follow those instructions and you end up with your dresser or with your couch or with whatever, the item is that you were building. Now, the reason I call this out is because if this conversation, if this process that we're going to walk through has, let's say, 25 steps, it's possible that you are already on step 7 or already on step 11, right? You might have already done some of these steps. So as we work through this and as we go step by step, I want you to pay attention. I want you to listen for the things that are review, and then I want you to make note of where the conversation starts to feel fresh, where you are already at. And don't be surprised if you feel like you've already done some of these steps, because you've probably been building this without the instructions. So let's take the mindset that the framework we're going to walk through is how you build the whole thing, starting at step 1 and finishing at step 50 or however many steps there are. And I also don't want you to think that the steps you have already covered are therefore irrelevant, because sometimes it's important to look at the instructions and to see, hey, the things that I think I've already done, did I do them the right way? Or was there a more efficient way to get X, Y, or Z done? So as we're talking through this conversation, pay attention for the point where things feel new for you. That will be the benchmark, the step that you are at. And remember that reviewing the steps you have already accomplished can still offer a lot of merit. A friend of mine went through this process recently, and in the very first few slides here, he revealed a gap, something that his business had done a while ago but had totally overlooked, and it was an opportunity for him to make a meaningful change to their business structure and to create a stair step that allowed his customers to become customers that much more easily. Okay, so I want to talk just briefly about the backstory, the context that this presentation was originally inspired from. So I was working with a small business owner, and she effectively said, how do I grow my business, right? And the nature of her business was that she had a $27 product, a $57 product, and a $297 membership. And as we talked, as I asked her some questions and made some recommendations for her to look at, I realized that her business was not too dissimilar from my own. And that the 3 milestones that she had laid out, I could draw parallels to the milestones within my own business. And as I zoomed out even further, I realized that was probably true for most businesses, right? If you genericize those milestones even further, it's really just 3 things that we wanted our prospects and customers to do. First this, then that, and then this. And as I looked at this truth from a super high level, I realized that there were some commonalities between the advice that I would give her, the advice that I have taken for my own business and that is true for my own businesses, and the advice that I would really give anyone. And so I looked at those commonalities and I organized them into a conversation that I think should be applicable for every small business. And that's what has gotten us to where we are today. So that's the nature of the rest of this course, is it was drawn from these individual consulting sessions that happened over and over, and I realized that the patterns were applicable to all small businesses. So here is the agenda. We are currently at the end of the intro module. So in a moment here, you will have 1/6 of this course complete. Congratulations. The next section is where we are going to talk about milestones. And then after that, we will discuss bridges, and then we will talk about measuring, and then we will talk about optimizing and prescribing the actual changes, improvements, and enhancements that we might make. And then I have an outro module where I give you some parting advice for how to take the lessons throughout this course and apply them into your own business. So with that said, it brings us to the end of this intro module here, and I will see you in the next video as we begin to talk about milestones.